For me, I've been training fasted for so long that I actually was getting in my own head and finding that if I were to train in the afternoon and I had eaten, I would have a crappy workout. Oh my gosh, some of that keto chocolate, like it's so easy to overdo it because it's just like a fraction of it, you know, in terms of volume. So you just got to be careful. And that begs the question, get down the biochemistry rabbit hole of like, does a sweet thing trigger a cephalic insulin response? Does something that's sweet, whether it's sugar, sucralose, aspartame, stevia, monk fruit, does it still make you crave more sweets? Is it psychosomatic or is it physiological? I don't really know, but it's doing something.
For me personally, it's not great.
Yeah.
I got to just pay attention to everything because I like food a lot. And so once I eat something that tastes really good, it just seems like I just want to eat more and more of it. And I'm better off just abstaining from it or trying to figure out a way to occasionally just cheat on my diet and eat something that's off plan.
Yeah. You're like me, man. Like I like food too. And you know, I mean, we were both pretty hefty before, right? It's like, I'm not going to deny that I like food. So I think I catch flack from some communities because like I still try to relate with people. Like I'll talk about keto snack foods and I'll talk about my favorite keto snack foods because you know what? Life is short. But you also, that's why I like fasting. It's like, I get to like kind of, people are going to say, oh, that sounds like a binge and purge type mentality. But no, it's like a mental reset for me. If I am going to enjoy something, then I do also feel like I can still maintain control by having some elements of fasting in my life. And it's okay to like food. I mean, it's a pleasure that we have, right? But
before we go, because we're going to end up talking about a lot of different things, and I don't want us to talk about fasting, let's talk about something else and come back. So let's talk about some of the main benefits of fasting and why maybe some people should implement it, because there are people within different realms of like fitness, especially within the bodybuilding side, they seem to dislike it quite a bit.
Yeah.
And I've seen that it's been super beneficial for me over the years, and it's been super beneficial for people I know, not just because of the way you can control your hunger, but also, I mean, conceptually, if you can just get in all your protein and your calories during the day, I haven't seen it really affect your ability to build muscle over time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? People have the argument of, oh, even protein feedings and all of that, but it doesn't seem to make that much of a difference.
No, I think one of the biggest levers that you can pull in terms of bodybuilding, building muscle in general, is manipulating your insulin sensitivity. Like, I can't think of a better way to manipulate insulin sensitivity more than to take a break from eating. Like, it's the same reason we used to talk about constantly, oh, well, after a workout, you're insulin sensitive. So you have your anabolic window, right? It's been preached for years by the fitness community themselves, the bodybuilding community. So they can't like say that works in one situation, but not in another. That's completely BS. Like, come on. So like, and you're seeing much more of the bodybuilding community being accepting of intermittent fasting now. Like it's becoming much more talked about. I just had Stan Efferding on my channel, you know, and we were talking about that. And Stan Efferding, like, even said himself, he's like, the anabolic window is kind of BS. Like, you have a lot more time to eat than that 30-minute anabolic window. Yeah. So it's nice to hear from someone that's been on an Olympia stage that understands, right? That is respectful of intermittent fasting. And that's just one person, but I know that there are multiple others. And for me, I've had some of my best gains in terms of muscle after my weight loss, you know, so after I'd lost weight. And of course, I lost a lot of muscle with that weight loss, but then, you know, I've built it back slowly, and now I've kind of lost it again because I'm doing a lot of running. But the point is, I mean, it's...
How many miles are you doing per week again, just so people can understand this?
Right now, about 25, but normally anywhere between 40 and 70, depending on what I'm training for.
He said that. So, he said that. Yeah. Just 40 to 70. Okay, let's
so it's I'm nothing like Nick Bear. I'm not fast, but you know, I can maintain my speed for at least 7-8 miles. After that, I'm just a slow 9-minute mile guy, just cruising along. So, and then people say, Thomas, you don't have huge legs. Well, yeah, because I'm kind of running a lot, but it's all good. And also just because maybe I'm just a big giant pansy. I don't know. But anyway, point is that, and I still manage to maintain muscle, even still doing so. But with intermittent fasting, you're allowing your body to become much more insulin sensitive. And when you do that, then of course, you have an opportunity when you do break your fast to capitalize on that. So one of the things that I really like doing is either having like a really early dinner, or sometimes just skipping dinner, which is hard to do with a family because it's kind of rude. But hey, like when you're a man and you sit there with your wife, the last thing you want to do at a restaurant is let your wife eat food and you not. That doesn't exactly make them feel good. Yeah. And you kind of feel like a jerk. But anyway, when I have that in my ability to do so, yeah, I'll just skip dinner, or I'll have dinner early, which is great because we have small kids. So all about having dinner early. We'll have it, be done by 5, right? And then that means if I go and I work out the next day at, 8 a.m. or something, I'm pretty deep in a fast, right? So people are like, well, you're going to break down muscle during your workout. No, it doesn't work like that. Nope. Like not at all, especially if you're producing ketones at that point. Even if you're not doing a ketogenic diet, you're eating carbs with fasting. After 18 hours of a fast, you're probably producing at least trace amounts of ketones, which are pretty muscle preserving. Now, that doesn't mean that everyone's not going to lose some muscle, but you're going to offset that muscle burn by when you finish your workout, then you break your fast. You're breaking your fast with a double advantage. 1, you're insulin sensitive from your workout. 2, you're insulin sensitive because you haven't been eating for 18 hours. So the quote unquote anabolic response, if you want to call it that, is going to be significantly higher.
Yeah, I know you're enjoying this episode, but I have a question for you. Are you still dieting off of broccoli, chicken, and rice, and maybe tilapia if you want to spice things up? Well, it's 2021. We're past that. That's why we've partnered with Piedmontese Beef. Now, Piedmontese is an amazing company that has cuts of beef that are really high fat or cuts of beef that are low fat. So if you are dieting on a low fat diet, you don't need to resort to the weak bird of chicken. You can instead eat some beef, eat some steak, and still end up getting the results you're looking for. So, Andrew, can you tell the people how to get it?
Yes, you guys got to head over to Piedmontese.com. That's Piedmontese.com. At checkout, enter promo code PowerProject for 25% off your entire order. And if your order is $150 or more, you get free 2-day shipping. Links to them down in the description, as well as the podcast show notes. Let's get back to the podcast.
Yes, it matters how many calories you take in a day, but we all do know that there are specific times where you can get more benefit, right? From insulin signaling and from muscle protein synthesis. After a workout is one of those times, at least a few hours after a workout, it's a little better. And so I feel like it's all about manipulating timing and really looking at that big equation versus, and how many calories are you getting in total, right? Just because you're fasting doesn't mean that you're only eating 1,200 calories. If you're actually paying attention to it, it's not that hard to meet your daily amount of calories.
Yep.
So what I do is I look at my calories over the course of a week versus each day. How many calories am I at the end of a week? So if if I'm supposed to consume 3,000 calories a day, then I want to be around 21,000 calories for maintenance at the end of the week. Some days, maybe it's 1,500. Some days, maybe it's 3,500. Some days, maybe it's 4,000. At the end of the day, I'm ultimately getting to the same point. And it's, if I want to gain weight, then I bump that up and I try to get myself in a surplus of like 300 to 400 calories for the week. Okay. For the week, I don't go into these massive, crazy bulks. I try to get a small surplus. Same if I'm trying to cut a small deficit, because I have these like macro deficits that are happening over the course of the week. And then I have these micro deficits that are happening by spacing my meals apart certain ways, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. So intermittent fasting is just, for me, and then let's just back up for a second and let's think about cortisol and stress and sustainability, right? Bodybuilding is not necessarily sustainable for a lot of people. We were talking about your competitive history, my competitive history. That's not realistic. Like I don't want to, once you have kids, I can't speak for everybody. I speak for myself. Once I had kids, I'm packing their lunches. Last thing I want to do is pack my little like lunch box too. Like I just, I'd rather just, it's like, come on, man. Like, what am I, 3? This is dumb. So it's like, and yeah, you're going to title this. Like, Thomas says bodybuilders are dumb. No, not at all. But my point is that I don't want to do that forever. And it just made a lot more sense for me to say like, hey, okay, well, some days I just take a break and I can actually do it for a longer period of time and keep it off.
I'd like for people to start to think of things a little bit differently. So like breakfast, for example, whenever you eat, that's breakfast because you broke your fast, right?
Yeah.
Post-workout nutrition. Anytime after a workout that you ate, that's post-workout nutrition. Doesn't matter how far away it is. I guess you could say, hey, well, if it's 3 days later that you ate, then maybe there's, maybe that's not post-workout or whatever, right? Any food that you eat after a workout, you could have worked out at 8 a.m. and then you could eat at 8 p.m. It's still a post-workout. And we can argue about glucose and we can review a bunch of studies, but people don't study everything. And people don't study individuals that are usually pretty hardcore. You don't really see that. So that when I hear people mentioning studies all the time, I'm like, well, I haven't fucking studied me. Like maybe I'm being arrogant about it, but I'm kind of thinking to myself, well, I'm doing the exact opposite of what that study shows. And for some reason, this feels great. Yeah. And for some reason, I'm starting to hear more people say that this is working. So when it comes to like breakfast, post-workout, pre-workout, same thing. Maybe you didn't eat at 7:30 because you're going to train at 8:30 a.m. Maybe the food that you ate was the night before.
Yep.
It's still pre-workout.
Still pre-workout, man. Yeah.
I mean, you understand the body really, really well. Does our protein like disappear 12 hours later? Does our glucose disappear? Does our fat?
Our calories actually reset every day at midnight.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So everything.
I felt that happen to me.
Yeah. If you're awake and you pay attention to it, you can feel it. It's really cool. It's like you feel it. You sit there and it's like there's this subtle click. And that's your body.
I felt that before.
That's their body resetting. Okay. It goes back to zero.
Okay, I thought that was
Some people
boner or something. I misinterpreted that.
No,
it's.
Oh, go ahead.
No, you're good.
No, that's the one thing you're mentioning there is like, that's one thing years ago, especially when I've been focusing on building muscle, and also being an athlete, you always hear your coaches say, for soccer, have like a carbohydrate rich meal 2 or 3 hours before practice. Bodybuilding, have a carbohydrate rich meal before lifting. And it'd be in my head. So whenever I would lift on an empty stomach before, I'd be like, fuck, I'm so weak, blah, blah, blah. But after I started implementing some fasting, and then after I just started doing some training and not getting in my head, along with finally getting some electrolytes, because that made a big difference for me, especially while fasted, I was like, damn, my performance is actually really fucking good. Whether it's in the gym, whether it's doing jujitsu, I can be fasted in training, and I'm doing great because I ate enough food the day before. And one thing people mess up, it's
the day before.
They don't eat enough food in their eating window sometimes.
Yeah, dude, you nailed it with the day before thing, because it's taken me a long time to figure that out too, because especially with fasting, you get kind of addicted to it, and you start, it makes you so present that sometimes you forget about those, I say this term a lot, but like those lagging indicators, those things that do, what you ate before is going to rear its ugly head the next day. Especially with intermittent fasting, when you're like kind of you're just running on a very thin delta to begin with. So yeah, I think you nailed that. But another interesting piece is that for me, I've been training fasted for so long that I actually was getting in my own head and finding that if I were to train in the afternoon and I had eaten, I would have a crappy workout. And then I realized that I had to go back to some of my old school days and think like, no, I know this isn't real, because you can still have a good workout fed.
Yes.
Plenty of phenomenal athletes do. However, you can get yourself, there is a real thing. It's, peripheral insulin resistance when you have trained fasted for so long that your body, I'm going to make this exceptionally colloquial, but basically your body is almost rejecting nutrients when you eat before your workouts. And when I say rejecting, it just means the cells are like, whoa, you're trying to like cram glucose into me right now. I'm not used to this. So what I've actually done is, I'd say 90%, probably more of my workouts are fasted, but I will consciously make sure that I do occasionally do a fed workout too, because I don't want to lose the tolerance of that. And the interesting thing is, I'd say with specific anaerobic activities, I feel, if I had to put a random number on, maybe 5% stronger if I have some carbs in me. But I definitely, I feel my body very well, and I feel like I'm definitely not burning as much fat, right? I feel like that's stopped. That's just how I feel, but I'm pretty sure that's fairly accurate that, if I have a high degree of like insulin spike while I'm working out, I'm probably blunting fatty acid oxidation to a certain degree. But what I find that does is it maintains my glucose tolerance so that I'm good at both ways. I'm good at training in a fasted state where my body's good at utilizing fats as a fuel source and going through, liberating glycogen for the proper usage. And then I also want to be able to occasionally marinate my cells in glucose so they still know how to use that, because
marinate your cells
in glucose. Yeah. Because it's like, get some of that Newman's Own dressing and, I find that pancreatic beta cells really, and hepatic cells really like Newman's Own. They like the Thousand Island dressing. So
delicious.
So it's, because I think all of us here, Mark, you came from a power background, but you're much more of a hybrid athlete now. You're definitely a hybrid athlete. I consider myself a hybrid athlete. You want to be dual fueled. You want to be able to be the best at using both. And who are we to say, carbohydrates are not bad. We just need to find the place that they work, right? Yeah. They don't work when you're sitting down. They don't work when you're not burning them. They're designed. So for an active person, it's foolish to not occasionally convince your body to use glucose, because you'll develop a degree of glucose intolerance. And we want to be the best we can possibly be, not necessarily so one track minded on just like looking a certain way. We just want overall optimization, right?
Yeah. Hey, little mama, let me whisper in your ear. Like, comment, subscribe to the channel because we continue to bring you peak content on this channel. Obviously, you guys are here. You guys have watched the whole video. So like, comment, subscribe. All right? See you later.